Here's part 14 of the Cipher. I'm hoping we're getting close to the end. So it was absolute chaos in the storage room. Nick was generating heat. Things were getting wild. Dakota was trying to get people out of the room as well, but without getting a couple swings in at Nick's first. Nick was screaming. He was yelling for people to leave. He was losing it, but he was getting physically hot. Something within the fun hole was generating a lot of heat inside him. That is the same heat that melted steel. Dakota came over and tried to grab him. She burnt her hands to a full thickness, 3rd degree burn. She screamed. She jumped back. Nick did not apologize. Some man tried to push back at him while on his way out of the storage room, and Nick, full body pushed him out of the way, but his hands sunk into his flesh, burnt him to the bone. He screamed, he fled, and that's what finally got people to get out of the storage room, leaving Nick all by himself. So everyone fled, and Nick ended up falling asleep right next to the fun hole. He slept in that room. He woke up. The room smelled of burnt flesh. His own skin was pinkish red, but other than that, he was unharmed. It was uncomfortably warm. All of the groupies, every single one of them, were gone from the apartment. Randy was knocking on the door real softly and asking Nick if he was okay. Nick knew that he had to quit. He knew this had to be the moment of change. He told Randy that I need to find someone that I can trust who is kind of in a semi-unbiased situation that they can do a special request for him. And that was Venice. Nick really liked Venice as a person because she was really, really sweet. She knew that she wanted no part in any of this. And that's why Nick really trusted her, is because she was not obsessed about the fun hole or whatever he was going through. She was a point of contact for him. Randy drove Nick to Venice's mom's place where she was staying for a couple days to get away from the madness. She invited them in. She made them breakfast. Nick wasn't hungry. He didn't eat. He hasn't eaten in about nearly 2 weeks at this point. He's only been drinking alcohol, and that's about it. Venice was really blunt with him, and she's like, to be honest, Nick, I'm still really frustrated with you that you will not quit this. I'm frustrated with everyone else because you guys are acting crazy about something so stupid and weird, and this is going to kill you. Nick, the way you are going right now, you are going to die in that room. And Nick, without hesitating, is like, yeah, that's kind of the plan. I got to go down with the ship. And Venice is like, are you... What? Venice, let me just ask you this right now, because I really need your help, because no one else will listen to me. Randy, love you, my guy, and you're just kind of like my wingman in this, but Venice, I trust you the most out of this. I'm going to buy chains, and I'm going to buy a padlock, and you're going to lock me inside that room. I will never ask you of anything ever again. You do not have to come back to the apartment after that is done. Venice tried to argue with him. She's like, that is crazy. I'm not going to do that. But after some pleading, after a little bit of arguing, Nick rests his case. Venice is like, fine, but I am going to feel so much shame and guilt if I aid in your demise. If you end up passing away in that room, I don't think I can live with myself. And Nick is like, trust me, this is what I want. You're helping me. So I hope you know that you're making me proud right now. So they ended up back at the apartment. Venice and Randy were with Nick. They went into the storage room. Venice is scared of the storage room. She doesn't like to be in there. And something about the fun hole reanimated some of the things inside that room. So they walked in. Remember that Randy left a metal sculpture of this skull in the room. And Nick is like, okay, you're going to leave me in here. I'm going to lock myself in this room. You're going to padlock it and just, thank you, soldier. And as they were standing in the room, Venice kind of wanted to leave, and this skull reanimated and bounced across the floor and snapped at her and tried to grab her and force her into the hole. Nick freaked out, saved her, pushed her out of the room. Randy was out the room, and they quickly shut, and they started padlocking the door. Venice was worried about him. She was talking to Nick through the door and asked him, are you okay? Are you going to be okay in here? I can bring you some food if you want, but I'm going to be honest, Nick, I don't want to stay around this room. I don't want to stay here at the apartment. It's too weird for me. And Nick's just like, I understand. That's fine. Randy would go from the apartment and back to the room and like give Nick verbal updates on what's going on, because I guess Nakota and her groupies were there, and Nakota and everyone else found out that Nick locked himself in the storage room, and she was starting to lose. But I guess her own groupies were, you know, intelligent enough to not let her go down there. So at one point, they had to like pin her to the floor to prevent her from crawling down the hallway and busting down the door. It was a couple hours. Randy came back down to the storage room, knocked on the door, and gave a verbal update to Nick. And he's like, listen, Nick, I gotta go to work, but just so you know, Nakota's talking crazy in there. She is tearing up the carpet. They're sitting on her to prevent her from leaving the room, but she's gonna go get a chainsaw to cut down the door to get to you. And Nick was just sitting on the floor, and he's like, no, she won't. I mean, yeah, she would, but I mean, I trust her. JK, no, I don't. So all Nick said is like, you prevent her from coming down here. Oh, and Randy, if anybody tries watching that tape, because I know Malcolm wants to watch it again, you break his freaking neck if he touches that tape. This is an order. So this book is getting real weird at this point. Occasionally, Randy or Venice might pop back in and inform him that Nakota's gone buck wild. She jumped in her car and she crashed into a building to get supplies to come get you. So Nakota is losing her mind because she's throwing a big tantrum. Nick is still locked in that room, and the fun hole is he's gone into full-blown hallucinations. He's like creating his own environment in that room. He's smelling roses instead of burnt flesh. He's hearing laughing. The sculptures will levitate and move themselves around the room. That skull will hop around and nip at his toes, or nip at his knees, or nip at his skin that's exposed, and it'll laugh at him, and he'll kind of talk back to the whole like, stop it.